Hi and welcome, everyone, the entire ISA community, anybody who's finding this elsewhere. We appreciate that you're here. And we have a very special guest. I'm pointing at him on screen right now, not him.
No, God, no.
But for those of you who know us or don't know us, my name's Max Tim. This is Scott Marcus. We have multiple roles and hats that we wear at the International Screenwriters Association. But today we want to spend a little time on a spotlight success story for one of our previous top 25 writers, one of our development slate writers, somebody who's been in the ISA fold for a long time. And he's a friend of ours, just, outside of all this crazy industry stuff. So, Michael, we're excited to have you here and for the reason to have you here.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
It's going to be fun to talk about this, even though, I mean, you're probably seeing it in the title, but we have, some fun announcements to make. And also we want to be plugging something and to make all of you go out to movie theaters and watch this movie. How do you want to kind of introduce Mike a little bit and just talk about how you know him?
Well, I was going to say that Michael is on our channel about as much as we are, because Michael was a top 25 screenwriter to watch in 2021. So I interviewed him at his house then.
Right.
We recently did a story behind the success talking about this, but we're going to go into a much deeper detail about this nationally released film that's coming up that Michael was one of the writers of. But you'd also know him because he was with you at the Wisconsin Screenwriter Symposium, and we have a number of videos on our channel from that as well. So not only is Michael a writer, but he's done a great job of helping inspire and educate other up-and-coming writers as well.
And we're going to continue to do that because we're going to have another Wisconsin Screenwriting Symposium in April. Michael, do you want to give a little just shout out to that?
Sure. Yeah, it's April 4th, the weekend of April 4th through 5th. It's a lot bigger than last year. Last year was kind of a stepping stone for us. It was kind of an experiment to see if there was actually any interest in the Midwest and in Wisconsin in particular. It was such a success that the university decided to do it again, and it'll be bigger and better. We've got for the first time, we've got a screenwriting contest that's being administered by the ISA for Wisconsin's own screenwriters. So a screenplay contest. And the winner of that is going to get a table read with professional actors. And Max, you'll be speaking at the symposium. I'll be speaking at the symposium. We've got showrunners coming in from Los Angeles this year. We've got some indie filmmakers also coming in from throughout the Midwest. So it's if you're in Wisconsin or in the Midwest and want to come to Madison when it's starting to thaw and get warm out, it's also, the symposium's also done in conjunction. It's the same weekend as the Wisconsin Film Festival. So if you're a lover of film, it's please check us out.
It's a good time. Yeah.
Well, let's just get into this, Michael. So give me a quick rundown. Could be a little bit of a trick because you've been doing this a long time in terms of working in the industry, not only as a writer, but in multiple other, facets. Just kind of tell the story about how you came to be where you are now, but, what you were doing prior to writing, how you found the ISA, and then, what's been happening over the past 3-4 years.
I've spent my whole life working in the industry, my whole adult life. I went to school. I majored in film and TV production. And I've spent the last 25 years working as a commercial director. I'm a member of the Directors Guild. I've directed Super Bowl campaigns. I've directed for years. I did a lot of commercials for Jimmy John's and Casey's Pizza and a lot of national food chains. And I never really considered myself a writer. 20 years ago, I was approached by someone that gave me a book and said this would make a great screenplay. And I wrote a screenplay for that, and it got produced. But I still didn't think of myself as a writer. And I fast forwarded to about 10 years ago, and I wrote my second screenplay, The Last Indian War, and it won top honors in Paris. It won top honors in Park City, in the Nassau and Los Angeles. I mean, it's won just a truckload of awards.
I love that.
And I was like, I think I need to take this writing thing more seriously. And at the same time, I had been working in advertising as a commercial director for over 20 years. And I mean, I was really, really blessed to do that. I think the average life of a commercial director is something like 5 years. And I had a really, really great run. But I was getting burned out. And I had a hard time admitting to myself that I was getting burned out on that. And I wanted to do something more substantial and get back to my original passion and dream of long format storytelling. The thing I could tell you about that was good from working in advertising and being doing TV commercials is you're forced to tell a story in 30 seconds or 60 seconds. And it's a great place to kind of learn your craft, because you don't have 31 seconds, you don't have 40 seconds, you don't have 60 seconds, but you need to be able to connect with an audience in a really short amount of time and hopefully tell something that is memorable. So that was kind of a great training ground for that. And but I think I did everything wrong. I had spent a number of years just kind of not taking the writing seriously, championing just the one script, The Last Indian War, not really writing anything else, not really doing anything else. And it was maybe the year or two before the pandemic hit, and I kind of stumbled upon the ISA website, and I think I applied to one of the contests, and it was it did really well. And then when the pandemic hit, I all of the online, I'm in Wisconsin, and it's like I wasn't planning on moving back to Los Angeles. I'd worked in Los Angeles in my 20s, but I wasn't planning on moving back there. But when the pandemic hit, all of the online seminars and courses and everything that you guys had putting on, I was like, it was kind of a pivotal moment for me, because I decided then that I wanted to pivot back to take it seriously. And I retired my commercial production company that I had, and I've decided to focus full time on screenwriting and getting back into the entertainment industry. And that was kind of a game changer for me. And
well, there was a moment, wasn't there, in 2021 where you thought, oh, this is a terrible decision. I shouldn't be letting this go. And I don't know if I'm going to be able to do this. And suddenly this movie came to you.
No, well, kind of. It wasn't 2021. It was just recently. It was just it was within the last 6 months.
Okay, got it.
So the pandemic hits, and it's weird, because I was started to put out to the universe, I'm going to take this seriously. I'm going to be a screenwriter. I'm going to be a successful screenwriter. I gave myself 2 to 3 years. And I figured, when you're just getting started, if you aren't from Los Angeles and you decide to move there, it takes about 2 to 3 years to plant roots. If you move anywhere else, just to plant roots and network and get to know people. So I was like, I'm going to give myself 2 to 3 years. And in 2021, I wrote a screenplay. I was the writer in residence at the University of Wisconsin Discovery Center, and wrote a screenplay there. The ISA named me a top 25 screenwriter to watch that year. I got named to the development slate, and I kept winning a lot of contests and things. And the local newspaper in Madison, the Wisconsin State Journal, had done a feature story about me and one of the screenplays. And through that screenplay, or through that article, the producers of Green and Gold, they read that. They had written a first draft of the script. The director and another writer had written the first draft of the script, but it wasn't landing well. And they really wanted to have it rewritten and add Wisconsin and Midwestern authenticity to it, and build the stronger characters, and just it and they kind of laughed. They told me when we first talked on the phone, when I first reached out, they go, we Googled Wisconsin screenwriters, not expecting to find anybody. And the article came up in their search and they read it. So they reached out, and I sent them some sample scripts. That was one of the things that I did starting during the pandemic. I started writing every day. And in the span of like the 2-3 years of the pandemic, I think I wrote 6 or 7 screenplays.
Nice.
And I got an agent during that time, and I just kept focusing on that. I figured this is like the most competitive industry in the world. I have to approach this like if I wanted to be like a professional football player, you got to work out every single day. So I'm like, I'm going to do the same thing. And you talk about getting burned out. I wrote the script in 2021 for these guys, and then the movie was shot in 2021, and I didn't really hear from them, and it was just a low budget indie film.
Right. Yeah.
And fast forward to I finished a script this summer that had some initial. It got great coverage, and the initial feedback was really, really good. And there was a producer that was interested on it. They had a deal with Amazon, and they read the script and they were really excited about it. And then nothing happened. And that was when I'm like, what am I doing? This is like, we're in 2024. And I started questioning whether I was being like really selfish to my family and whether I should do this or not, if it was a fool's errand. And it was literally that week I got a message from both a friend of mine and from the producer that that Green and Gold had won the audience award at the Austin Film Festival. And then the next weekend, it won the audience award at the Heartland Film Festival. And then it got a major theatrical distribution deal. And I'm like, once again, it was like the universe kind of saying, maybe you should stick around.
Yeah. I think it's an important thing to for other writers to hear that, because a lot of writers would be hearing all of the things that one of the first scripts you wrote way back when was produced, and then you were working in the industry and you were getting work, and then you were winning contests, top 25 writer. A lot of writers would think, oh my God, like you're making it. At the same time, 2024, you still had doubts.
Yeah.
And it's just something that's always going to come up. We just have to learn how to weather those doubts.
And future success is never guaranteed from past success. Yeah.
I mean, the hard thing, if you're new to this, I think the hard thing is wrapping your head around the fact that even if you're successful in this industry, it's a short-term gig industry, and you always need to be looking for the next project or the next. I mean, it's not a 9-to-5 job, and you're not going to have job security. And and that's one thing, especially when you're younger. Like for me personally, I had my parents telling me, you need to get a real job, and and go and all that. And they were supportive, but at the same time, they were also, maybe you should get a real job. And so, and everybody, and I talked to students and young people, when I had my production company, I was, we had interns from the university and from both Madison and Chicago. And we tell them this kind of the same thing. It's like everyone getting into this business is being told the same thing. It's like, maybe you should get a real job. And I think, the people that are really passionate, that have a calling for this, that, you have to have a bit of a thick skin and say, I hear you, and I know this is coming from a place of love, but I need to do this. And I think that's, and I think that needs to be kind of celebrated more, that calling. People are called to be doctors, to be teachers, but I think people are also called to be artists. And it kind of taps into the same thing. I think it's this act of giving and giving to others and communicating and reaching out and connecting with others. And we don't really, I don't think, celebrate that in our culture, at least not in the United States. And I think we need to do that more often.
And that's why it's hard to shift the perspective inside of us because the culture just doesn't really promote that.
That's true. And it is, you know, we're creators because our soul doesn't let us do anything else. That's what we have to do. It's what we're drawn to do.
Yeah.
I really want to go down, like really dig into Green and Gold and then the whole journey and all that before we get too far away from it, especially because the ISA did just announce our top 25 screenwriters to watch for 2025. A lot of people wonder, how do you get on that list? And there's really a whole bunch of different ways that you get on the ISA's radar. Michael, you mentioned that you did well in a contest. What was your interaction with the ISA prior to being brought onto the development slate and being one of those top 25 writers to watch? How much of an insider to the ISA were you at that point?
I don't think I was. I was a guy in the Midwest. I knew I didn't want to go to Los Angeles to live. I love working there, but my roots are here now. And I'm an older guy, and I didn't want to go back down that road. But my plan was to network and reacquaint myself. I have some friends that were out there, but I also wanted to start networking and building new relationships. So from the Midwest, I thought I'm going to do that through film festivals and screenwriting competitions. And I've met some absolutely wonderful, amazing writers through that. I won a screenwriting fellowship down in the Bahamas at the Bahamas International Film Festival, and just met some great people. So, with the ISA, I didn't really know the organization that well, but I kind of, at the time I found ISA, I'd also found like Coverfly and Stage 32 and Inktip and all these other places. But what kind of really stood out to me was, and it was great. I mean, it's like pre-internet, I would have had to go out to LA.
Sure.
And so but what I really liked that you guys, what the ISA was doing, was the kind of the educational component. And I can't emphasize this enough. During the pandemic, as bad as that was like I found it really kind of remarkable. I between writing and all of the online resources that the ISA started sponsoring and doing, I felt like I had this community. I was learning about the industry. I was learning from other writers. I was learning the things that I was doing wrong. I mean, things that, like Max, championing one script and not building a portfolio. As a director in advertising, I was always working on my reel that I'd send out to ad agencies that we work with. But the idea of building a demo reel, a portfolio for my writing, I hadn't put two and two together. So it was like everything started clicking with that, and it just was a really strong sense of community. And I like meeting you guys. And Max, you had a workshop down in Lake Geneva. Again, it was like the networking opportunity. I mean, it was just being among fellow writers and creatives, and all kind of with the same goals. And that's like food for the soul. It was just really good for me professionally.
Yeah. Learning is inspiring. It inspires you to be excited about what you're doing and the projects you're doing. To get to our focus, and from a fun standpoint, because this is so exciting that you've got a movie coming out, a huge theatrical release. Give us a little breakdown. If you had to pitch this, quick elevator, maybe a long elevator ride type of pitch, what's the movie?
And I'll help set the mood for us here. There we go.
There we
okay.
go. Nice.
Ooh. Very, very nice. Green and Gold is a story about a desperate Wisconsin dairy farmer whose fourth generation dairy farm is being foreclosed on by the bank. And in a desperate measure, he literally bets the farm and his family's legacy, on whether the Green Bay Packers will win the Super Bowl or not. And the story is told through the eyes of the farmer's granddaughter, who is in her early 20s, and she is debating whether to follow her passion to be a musician and to build a career, to leave Wisconsin and to build a career as a musician, or to stay home on the farm to help her grandparents save the farm.
Is this based on a true story, by the way?
I'm told it's loosely based on an actual event that happened in the early 90s. And the story takes place in the early 90s.
Right.
Oh, it does. I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. It happens. The story takes place before when Brett Favre has just come to the Packers, and kind of after the dry spell in the 70s and 80s for the Packers. It takes place kind of when they started their ascension.
It seems like such a sweet story. I'm a Chicago Bears fan through and through. So Packers and Bears, it's like oil and water here. It doesn't go well. But I watched the trailer and was like, oh boy, this looks like a really good movie.
You're going to end up rooting for the Packers within the film.
I mean, I'll root for the farmer.
Yeah.
Well, why don't we watch a little bit of the trailer so everybody watching gets a sense of what this is.
This ain't your land.
When you don't pay your loan, it becomes my land.
Critics are raving about Green and Gold. It's funny, moving, and unforgettable.
I want to hear you before you become rich and famous.
A fascinating and heartfelt movie with excellent performances.
She's really talented.
Green and Gold is the first must-see film of 2025.
You still believe in what we're doing?
More than anything.
Green and Gold, in theaters starting January 31st.
What did you feel when you watched this?
Actually, I haven't even watched the trailer yet.
Oh my God.
I'll be honest with you. So I don't know. I just talked to Michael instead. I'm already hyped. I want to see it. Actually, before, I don't know. Go ahead.
The story takes place in Wisconsin, but it's a bigger story, and I think anybody with any kind of Midwestern roots or Midwestern that's been through this part of the country, I think it will appeal to these people. I mean, it's really a movie about family and the little things in life that you don't realize it at the time, but mean the very most. And
it seems like you don't need to be a football fan to enjoy.
No, you don't.
Because you're not really spending time with the Packers. You're spending time with the family that's watching things unfold. So, I mean, how much of the screenplay actually involves football, like proper football?
The story, it follows the season, that particular football season,
sure,
from fall into winter, but it's kind of peripheral to the story.
Yeah, no, it's a human story. That's why so many sports movies are really great movies, regardless if you understand the rules of the game and stuff like that, because it's all drama. It's human interaction. It's humanity. It's people being passionate about what they care about.
Oh, I mean, Felicity Wren, who's our friend and coworker, and Felicity Michael. She's the VP of development for the ISA. She loves Field of Dreams. I don't even know if she knows one rule of the sport. Honestly, I don't know if she does, and she loves that movie.
But how much of a dream was this for you to have somebody approach you and say, hey, we're doing a story, it takes place in Wisconsin, and it involves the Packers, and you are, again,
the Packers,
Mr. Wisconsin.
It was really a dream come true. I mean, it was kind of surreal. When Davin and Anders, the two brothers, the producer and director that made the movie, when they reached out to me and they told me what they were working on and what they wanted and where they wanted to go with the story, this sounds corny, but I literally got goosebumps, and I'm like, I know this story. I mean, I know these people. I didn't grow up in Wisconsin. I grew up in upstate New York, but I grew up in a small town. I have family that were farmers. My wife's family are farmers, and I knew intimately these people in this story, and all of the characters are based on family members and people that I know. And even dialogue comes from family reunions and stuff along the way.
How big of a rewrite was it when you came on board?
Yeah, I did a page one rewrite.
Oh, you did? Okay.
Yeah, they had told me that the script really wasn't landing well, and they sent it to me to read, and they wanted to do something with a lot of heart that was dramatic but also humorous, and it just wasn't landing well. And they asked me what I would do to fix it. Mm-hmm. And and I thought it was a great story, but I told him that I thought that I used the analogy of a farmhouse. I said, we really need to strip this. It's got a really sound foundation, but we need to strip it down to the studs and rebuild it. And they were like, yeah, we agree. And they were very generous. They gave me the freedom to do that. They asked me how I work best. And they asked me if I wanted to collaborate with them, with Anders, who had written the first draft. And I told them I would if they wanted me to, but I said, I think I do my best work if you kind of let me process it and go off for a couple months and then come back. And that's what they did. They asked me, how much time do you want? And I said, well, can you give me 3 months? And they go, we can give you 2 months. And I was like, okay. So I was like in a panic mode, but I was like, yeah, 2 months. Because they wanted to go into production that fall.
And this was an offer for a job. Like you talked about contractual agreements and all that stuff too. I mean, yeah.
Oh yeah. They were hiring me. They paid me up front to work on this, and there was a contract. And
so at this point, they have their go time when they want to be filming. So they must have cast in place, financing in place.
They were funded. They had financing in place, but they hadn't had it cast yet. And that, I think that was part of the reason why they wanted to get the script, get a solid script that they could send out, because casting takes longer than you think it does. They were up against the gun because they really wanted to film in the fall and the winter in Wisconsin. And it was, you just didn't have the luxury of being able to fake it somewhere else. Anders tells the story that he had wanted to cast Craig T. Nelson as the grandfather, as the farmer. And he said that when he approached his casting director to tell her that, she said, well, you can't afford him. You don't have the budget for this. This is a really low budget movie. You don't have the budget for someone of his caliber. And but she goes, I'll submit the script anyway. So she's sent him the script, but had kind of tempered his expectations. 2 days later, she gets a call from Craig T. Nelson saying, I don't care how much money it is. I love the script. It's got so much heart and so much authenticity.
Michael, that's so fantastic.
I'll do this. I want to do this. And people don't realize, I didn't realize this at the time, but the actress cast to play the grandmother in the story is Craig T. Nelson's wife in real life. And they've got great chemistry. They've been married 40 years, and they've got great chemistry on screen together. Charlie Behrens, who the Manitowoc Minute, if you're from the Midwest or from Wisconsin, you know Charlie Behrens, great stand-up comic. He said the same thing. He said that he hasn't done a lot of film work yet. His star is kind of on the rise, but he said that when he read the script, it reached out to him because he goes, I know all these characters. These are all people that I grew up with. And he said it has so much heart that he jumped at the opportunity and he wanted to work on it.
What was the budget on the project?
It was under $1 million.
Okay.
Oh, wow.
I love it. And where are these guys from, the producer and director?
They were born in northern Wisconsin. They grew up, I don't remember if they're from the UP of Michigan or from north of Green Bay, but they grew up in northern Wisconsin. They have ties to northern Wisconsin. But they both live in Colorado. They've had a production company. They've got a production company in Colorado.
I do like that Craig T. Nelson. Basically, we were able to bring him over from the Vikings because he played the Vikings coach at the end of this TV series, Coach.
And the Coach, the Coach TV series,
right.
And he's got family in Wisconsin. He said he's got family in Eau Claire and Wisconsin Dells and Minnesota, and so he said he's from the Midwest. So did
it shoot in Wisconsin?
Yeah.
God, there are no tax credits in Wisconsin.
There are no tax credits here, and I God bless Davin. I don't know the conversations that what kind of pressure he had to shoot it elsewhere, but Davin and Anders stuck to their guns.
Wow.
And they wanted to shoot it here, and they shot it here.
And you weren't included or involved in the production or anything.
I haven't seen the movie yet.
Oh my gosh.
I saw a rough cut about a year ago. Davin sent it to me. It was very generous of him. He sent me a rough cut and asked me for my notes, and which they didn't have to do. I was kind of blown away that they had asked me to do that. And I gave him notes on that rough cut a year ago, but I haven't seen the finished film. I'll see it this Wednesday is the premiere. Their premiere in Milwaukee on the 22nd. There'll be a bunch of former Green Bay Packers there from the 90s era, and some of the stars will be there. And I'm looking forward to finally seeing the whole thing.
Yeah.
And you had a big moment a couple of weeks ago at this point up in Lambeau Field as well, right?
Yeah, they did a big kind of kickoff event. The Green Bay Packers have been a huge sponsor of the movie. When they saw, at some point they saw a cut of the film. I don't know if it was done yet or not, but they saw a cut of it and they decided to sponsor it, which I guess, from what I'm told, is unusual for the NFL. Usually things come from the NFL down, and the Packers went to the NFL and said, we're going to promote this.
Wow. Well, I mean, obviously that's a good sign.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the event was up in Lambeau Field, and the kickoff event, and they only showed like a 25 minute clip. But it was such a fun event to go to.
I bet.
Was that at the Bears game?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
It was the night before the Bears game.
Okay. All right. For those of you who don't know, the Bears did win that game. I just thought I would probably put that in front of them.
Ouch. Of all of the times for the Bears to finally win a game, it had to rain on Michael's parade.
Well, Max, there's an old saying, even a blind squirrel finds a nut once in a while.
True.
So
it's true. I had the Packers kept Josh Jacobs in. If Jacobs had stayed in, the Bears would have lost. But anyway, this is, we don't need to go into. I'm just really excited for you. When's the actual official release for the movie?
The movie's being released nationwide on January 31st.
And by the way, I've been to the website for the movie, and it's got a place where you can put in your zip code and it'll pop up the show times and what theaters it's playing at. I have just tested it out with random addresses around the country. I don't know how many theaters, and maybe it's probably not even announced yet exactly how many theaters it'll play in, but it's out there. It's going to be really out there.
How cool is that?
It's been getting great word of mouth. The critics that have seen it so far have absolutely loved it. Opening night screening here in Madison is nearly sold out, and we're still 2 weeks out. So
yeah.
So what are you doing next now? Like, what you're going to use this to try to hopefully vault yourself a little bit? Are you reaching out to people as the writer? What are you going to do?
I am going to continue writing. So it's like continue writing. I hope this leads to more work. I would like it to. I'm halfway through a new screenplay that I've been working on, and I got two or three ideas lined up behind that, kind of like planes waiting to land at O'Hare. So that said, if a producer reached out and said, we want to hire you for a writing project, I would absolutely jump at the opportunity.
Yeah. And eventually we're going to collaborate on some mafia story. Somewhere we gotta.
Yeah.
We're too big of nerds for that, both.
The whole southeastern part of Wisconsin is, and plenty of places north, lots of mafia stories.
The producing team did so much with so little, shooting in a state without tax incentives, that I do want to take the moment to put a little pressure on the state legislature, because the ISA, we've been championing another film that wanted to shoot in Wisconsin, My Dead Friend Zoe, set in Wisconsin. It's a Wisconsin story. They did not shoot in Wisconsin. They shot, I think, on the like maybe towards Oregon or Washington State or something like that. But they had to go to a place that had tax incentives. So I know, Michael, you've had some involvement over the years as well. We're all really pushing for tax incentives to come to the state of Wisconsin, because there's a lot of crew here. There's a lot of great stories to be told here, and
there's so much open space.
Oh, gosh,
plenty of space for trailers.
Wisconsin is an absolutely beautiful, amazing state. that is not used at all. It's one of the very few states in the country that does not have any film incentives whatsoever. In fact, there used to be a film office that was closed. I think it is absolutely outrageous, just absolutely outrageous, that the apathy from the Wisconsin state legislature and the state government not supporting the film industry, which is the largest export industry in the United States. It is a major driver of the economy. It doesn't matter if you're in California or Georgia or Illinois, the entertainment industry has a ripple effect through the entire country. And the fact that the Wisconsin legislature just is apathetic to that, when just to the south of us in Chicago, Illinois has a very, very robust, huge incentive package, and is very, very actively courting and encouraging and trying to grow the film industry in Illinois. And I know Minnesota is likewise
generating a ton of revenue for the city and the state. I mean, this is not like we're just giving money away. This is actually a profit generator.
Oh gosh. When I graduated college, which was right around when you did, there were no tax incentives in Illinois, which is why I had to move away. It was also the same year that the movie Chicago shot in Toronto.
Yeah.
And My Big Fat Greek Wedding, which was, one of the big hits of the year, was set in Chicago, but that also shot in Canada. And Chicago got kind of embarrassed by this. And that's what eventually led them to then create these tax incentives. And wouldn't you know it, then Transformers, Batman, all these huge movies come to Chicago. And as soon as I moved away, all this production comes to Chicago. But that's what happened.
And they took the long view too, because now Chicago has they've been continuing to build stages, sound stages in Chicago. Netflix has been adding space to the Cine Space Studios in the South Side. I mean, they're being really proactive in growing and cultivating the industry there. And up here it's crickets. There is a group actively trying to get incentives passed in the state, and it should not be this difficult of a sales job when you just have to look to the south, to our neighbors to the south, and you see the hundreds of millions of dollars that's coming into the economy.
Yeah, and look at that. And we don't even have sports teams that win anything. But
seriously.
So if Wisconsin, get on it, because there's such an opportunity.
Huge tourism boost too. I mean, it shows, look at our state. You should come here and hang out. And anyway, state legislatures, whether you're Republican or Democrat,
doesn't matter.
Don't be stupid. Figure it out, and hopefully something will come of it. But
something I want to circle back on really quick, Michael, you've done such a great job, I think, about sharing your successes. When you have a screenplay, I should say, that gets to the next level at a contest, I see the blurb, whether it's social media or on the ISA website. And then, of course, as you said, this opportunity, Green and Gold, came to you because there was an article written up about you. And that's because other people knew that you had interesting things happening.
You were being proactive in sharing your success stories. It's weird. It's almost like talking to the Wisconsin state legislature sometimes, with some screenwriters trying to convince them you need to promote yourself. You cannot be humble.
No, you need a little bit of chutzpah in this industry. And I am by nature somewhat introverted, a little introverted. Maybe it came from working as a commercial director. I always had to go out and pitch my work. And I think part of it is being where I am in the country too, because the people that are in the entertainment industry, working in the Midwest, that are good, that are making a lifelong career. I use the analogy, the cream rises to the top, and they're working they've made a career out of it because they're good at what they do. But it's a harder sell. So you always have to be out promoting yourself and selling yourself for the next project. And I think, as much as I hate doing it, I don't have the luxury of being able to take somebody out for lunch in Malibu. So this is kind of what I have to do.
Yeah. Can't stress it enough for all you writers out there. Well, Michael, this was awesome, and we're so happy for you and so excited. I'm excited to see it. When I'm able to get out there and do it, I'll go watch this movie for sure. I'm going to wear a complete bear jersey and hat. But
I think, I think, Max, even after you watch this, I would be surprised if, like the Grinch, if your heart just grew. And I wouldn't be surprised if there's a little something for green and gold in there for you.
I would be surprised.
I would be very surprised, but I would, my heart would be growing for the characters and all the people that play the characters and the production and the producers and directors, and of course for you, Michael. So for sure. Yeah. Anything else?
Just congratulations, man. I'm going to be there with you on your opening night on the premiere, when the movie drops publicly. I'll be there celebrating with you, and I'm looking forward to that so much. So everybody, again, that's January 31st. We'll put the website link to the official movie website where you can, put in your address and see where the nearest theater is. Yeah. But everybody, go on out, support hardworking screenwriter Michael Graf.
Well, also for all of you who are ISA members, we should be supporting our fellow ISA members. Go watch your members' movies.
And thank you, both of you, and thank you, ISA, because I wouldn't have been able to get to this point without the community that you guys have created and the encouragement from you guys. So I'm really grateful to you guys. So thank you.
Happy to be here. Yes. All right, everyone. Thank you for watching. Huge congrats again, Michael. We'll see you soon, whether it's about this or something else. But we're excited for you. And everyone, thanks for watching.
Thanks. Go Pack.